some of the provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, but really the climate change bill are going to be put to work here. Because what we can do instead of arguing about climate change is address it.
That was U.S. Senator Peter Welch at the recent groundbreaking for Hillside East, a new kind of housing development now under construction in South Burlington. Why is it unique? Well, it's a partnership between the real estate developer and the state's largest electric utility to build 155 new homes which use zero fossil fuels, no oil, no natural gas. With the growing climate challenge, they are convinced this is where new home construction in America is heading. In a section of South Burlington, not far from the airport, work is underway on a new neighborhood called Hillside East. This is a rendering of what it should look like. 155 new homes, the first set to open early next year. And every one 100% carbon-free. Josh Castengay is Chief Innovation Officer at Green Mountain Power and said this development is a national first. Josh, how are these new houses fundamentally different from a traditional new construction?
Yeah, so these new houses are different. I mean, one of the key things is there's not going to be any fossil fuel in these homes. So from a heating perspective, they're going to be electric transportation ready. They're going to be fully resilient, so they're going to come with battery storage, solar on the roof, smart electrical equipment, making them withstand, when we have trouble on the system, stay online, and you'll be heating and cooking and everything with electricity.
So if the power goes out in the nearby neighborhood, it won't go out here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if there's an outage on the system due to a storm event or something, these homes will stay online. And the beauty of that is not only will they be resilient, you're not running a generator, you're not burning any fossil fuel to do that, and when you don't need the battery system in an emergency, you're using that system to actually lower the cost for everybody else.
And you said they'll be EV ready? You'll have a charger in the garage?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So these homes will be electric vehicle ready. We're in addition to the storage and the solar, we're installing a smart electric panel that also includes what's called a level 2 EV charger that'll be run out to the garage and ready for your first EV when you bring it home.
Okay, so the traditional appliances will run off electricity and you'll have induction ranges and that sort of thing?
Yeah, everything in here will be electric. Your heating, your cooking, anything else, it's all going to be electric in these homes.
So that's a big change. Tell me about heating and cooling.
Sure. So the homes will use, most of the homes will use centrally ducted heat pump systems. These are designed to heat the entire home in all temperatures and all seasons and cool the home in the summertime. These are systems that have been deployed for a while. Technology has evolved incredibly over the last decade or so, and that's going to handle all the heating in these homes.
Now, we've heard stories about that in the legislature, for example, that when it was really cold this past winter, some of those heat pumps didn't throw out a lot of heat, and you needed a backup system. Is that not the case in this new development?
No, these systems can operate well below zero, and anything that you would need through the wintertime, they're the heat pump system themselves, and they include an electric backup system in them if it were needed. But what we've seen in the winter with the modern technology is it can heat very comfortably in your homes through all the temperatures.
So how much of a change is this? And tell me a little bit about cost, some of the challenges that you've had to deal with coming up with this design.
Yeah, I mean, so it's, one of the things that we're looking at is as we electrify our homes and businesses, as we get off of fossil fuel, there's a way to do Green Mountain Power, Vermont, partnering with O'Brien, there's a way to do it that actually benefits the regional and the local electric grid. So what we're doing here is with the solar, with the storage, with the controls and the electrification, each home is resilient, but we can also leverage this entire neighborhood as a resource for the full grid. So what that does is not only does it eliminate fossil fuel, reduces carbon, but it saves an incredible amount of cost for not just the customers living here, but all of the customers that we serve. It's truly going to be, this is going to be a model for the country in terms of how you can build homes, how you can develop homes, and how you can retrofit homes, quite frankly. We look to repeat this very quickly, but how you can do it in a way that's going to benefit the grid, that's going to save everybody money, it's going to keep it resilient, and it's going to obviously reduce carbon.
So how does it benefit the grid?
So if you think about it, if, there's times when the grid is using its peak demand. So, this week, for example, we're going to see temps in the 90s. There's going to be a lot of cooling demand on the system. With the battery storage in these homes, combined with the solar, we can actually discharge those batteries and feed them into the grid, reduce how much energy we need to pull from the regional grid. That in turn saves money for all of our customers, reduces carbon from peaker facilities and things that may need to run, and again reduces cost. So using that storage combined, like think of this whole neighborhood as an aggregate resource that we're going to tap into during those peak summer days, those peak winter nights. We can benefit that entire system, reduce how much energy during those peak demand times that we need.
And you said there is no neighborhood like this in the country?
None that we've found at this point, especially in a colder climate. So one of the things that we're showing here is in a colder climate, although one that's warming, it is the combination of the heating, electric transportation, the full resiliency combined with the solar storage system. This is pretty unique, and it's something, like I said, we are looking to start. We really want to start expanding on across the state here.
GMP has partnered with real estate developers O'Brien Brothers to design Hillside East. GMP will lease the solar energy and battery storage systems to homeowners using tax credits from the new Inflation Reduction Act. Homes promise stable, lower-cost heating and cooling and are no more expensive to buy than a conventional design. Evan Langfeld is CEO of O'Brien Brothers.
Who will Hillside East appeal to? What kind of buyer?
Well, I think there's a variety of demographics that are interested in this location for a variety of reasons. I think the location's fantastic. It's convenient. It's close to employment opportunities. It's close to schools, shopping.
But I mean the energy and electricity components that make this development different.
Yeah, I think anybody really that's forward thinking. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the macroeconomic climate in terms of the energy markets, as we're all seeing over the last couple of years with what's happening over in Ukraine, it's become more and more volatile. But I also think that there's a big desire to, I think, live a cleaner lifestyle, leave a lower carbon footprint, and I think that that mindset, particularly here in Vermont, is really the direction that we're heading in.
How does a carbon-free development change the pricing, the economics for the developer?
Well, there's always risk with any sort of development, and clearly we're doing something new and novel here, so there's a risk that we're taking, but we think that the upside, not only to us as O'Brien Brothers as the developer, but really to our homeowners, which are first and foremost in our minds, it's too great to not go down this road. And I think again, when we think about the long-term value appreciation, homes are the single biggest equity that the vast majority of Americans build up over time, the value in your home. And so if you're buying a home that's sort of a relic of the past, you would think that over time you're not going to get that appreciation when this is the direction that we're moving in.
Compared to the other homes in this neighborhood that presumably heat with natural gas and maybe cool with electricity, how will the pricing, how do your costs change with this new design?
Sure. Well, in fact, it's actually comparable in terms of pricing. So it's basically for a single-family home is essentially level set from the existing homes that have the existing fossil fuel infrastructure in place. And really, for a long time now, we've been designing homes that are highly energy efficient. And so, yes, we are moving in a different direction in terms of the energy supply, but the home styles, we're still building really high-quality homes that are appealing to a variety of demographics. It's just really the energy source and the backup battery storage and the solar that will be on all 155 homes that sets it apart. But really, in the first phase, I had reached out to Green Mountain Power probably 7 years ago now to see, if there was a way to do sort of a creative partnership and really push the envelope on the energy efficiency and energy source. And at that point, while we had really productive conversations, I wasn't convinced that the cold climate heat pump technology was where it needed to be to really be able to rely on with 100% certainty, which is what we need when we're committing to something with our homeowners. So this past year, when I reached back out to Kristen Carlson and the rest of the team at Green Mountain Power, it was a very different conversation because the technology has evolved so fast. And that, coupled with the Tesla Powerwall storage, the on-roof solar arrays, as well as the on-site grid-scale backup battery facility that GMP is going to be constructing, it gives us the certainty that we need, that when we're committing to our homeowners, that they're going to be comfortable, they're going to be living in a home that has stable energy pricing, and they're going to be making a great investment.
Since the May groundbreaking, 6 buyers have put down a deposit. Perhaps no surprise, Langfeld said, given Vermont's unprecedented shortage of housing. He told us that new 3-bedroom townhomes will start at about $599,000 for about 1,800 square feet. Single-family homes begin at $650,000 for about 2,200 square feet, all with rooftop solar, battery storage, and charging for your electric vehicle.
Well, we've got 155 homes to sell, so I think we have a decent supply for folks for a number of years to come. I think, again, in some respects, we're also self-governed by a labor shortage in Vermont, which is sort of a chicken and egg thing with a housing crunch. So, I mean, we can and will build as fast as we can with quality subcontractors, but, we have a quality control process that is pretty stringent, so we want to maintain that.
Evan, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the interest.